This week on the Big Ten Team Rivalry Show, Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State all roll. Iowa stumbles accidentally into first place in the West Division. And we take an updated look at who still has a pathway to a bowl game. Dad, anything to add?
Hey, it's officially hate week in the Big Ten, although I got to admit it's hard not to feel bad for little brother.
This is Big Ten Team Rivalry. First up, we've got Penn State, Illinois. We're going to go through each of the games. Well, we got 3 games. First up, Penn State, Illinois. We got 5 minutes for each game.
Looking for some bigger prey. They're hungry for that bigger win, and this could be it. If they can take down Penn State. I said, nevertheless, why did I say I said?
The former third string, now second string quarterback. And people on Twitter are talking. Should he be the starter now? Welcome to the Big Ten Team Rivalry Show. My name is Mackenzie, and I will be your host. With me, as always, is Cliff. It's weird calling you by your first name. How's it going, Dad?
It's going all right. I think after last weekend, we finally have an answer to that age-old question: are boa constrictors impacted by the weather? Apparently, the answer is no.
Interesting take. All right. Thank you to all of our subscribers, and thank you to everyone who is watching. We are a father and son team in a never-ending pursuit to make football fun again, with oddball statistics and an enthusiasm for personal bias, and some friendly rivalry on the side between the two of us. If you enjoy watching football with your family, this is the channel for you.
You know what separates the winners from the losers, kid? The score.
First things first, we're going to cover the games from last Saturday, and first up we have Michigan hosting Indiana. So Indiana's defense gave Michigan some fits in the first quarter. The Hoosier offense couldn't really get much going until they ran a trick play for their opening touchdown. It's only the second time this season that Michigan has trailed. Michigan then answers that by scoring 52 points rather quickly and decisively. It is also the first time since 1975 that Michigan has posted back-to-back 50 burgers. Dad, what stood out to you?
Actually, I want to take a quick step back. I think I missed the first couple of plays. What was the trick play that they ran? Do you remember?
Yeah, so quarterback snapped it. They were in shotgun. Quarterback snapped it. He threw it to his left to a slot receiver, I want to say. And then that receiver ended up throwing it downfield to a wide open receiver who just trotted into the end zone. Yeah, it was totally blown coverage, but it was a trick play. So, it happens.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Michigan just rolled them from then on.
Yeah, well, that probably upset them.
Probably, yeah. I think the more we look at, or the more intently we look at on how to call a game, every year I pick up, it seems like, more and more on what factors to consider when predicting point spreads. And I have to say, I've really never considered weather as a major factor, which is an oversight on my part, because obviously, you're going to play a lot differently between warm weather and cold weather, dry weather and wet weather. But this weekend, I actually lucked out because, as it turns out, the weather did not impact Michigan at all, even though it was raining on it for most of the game. So I called a high-scoring game, and then I saw the guys with, a lot more experience than what we have saying, no, it's going to rain, so that'll keep the score down. But I stuck to my guns because I believe last week that something was unleashed at Michigan. It just feels like after that game against Minnesota, during that game against Minnesota, they became that boa constrictor that PJ Fleck talked about. And they just tore into it. So luckily I was right to stick to my guns, and it was a 7-0 Indiana at the end of the first quarter. And I got nervous, but then Michigan just destroyed Indiana after that. So now I'm wondering, should I even think about the weather? Because it's like, if I didn't think about it before and it didn't impact it, if I start thinking about it now, is that going to wreck my picks? But that's what I saw anyway.
Yeah. Normally I would say that weather would be something to consider, but it was really funny because I was listening to a whole bunch of other shows like Cover 3 and wow, other shows. And they were all saying too, like, bet the under because, it's going to be raining and it's going to be cold and it's going to be, terrible, terrible conditions, especially like, running on turf and all that too. And so sure enough, I bet the under and now I'm 50 cents poorer for it. Not very high stakes.
Well, and
But-
yeah, like Steve Dace and Big Ten Ted, and I think a couple other guys too. I mean, they were all saying, it wasn't going to be over 30, and
Mhm.
I mean, and they were rightly so. I mean, that was a more educated guess. We lucked out, I think.
Yeah, well, I wonder if it really rained as hard or if I don't know, maybe the receivers just are that good that they can catch, a slippery thrown football. But
Mhm.
I don't know because from the broadcast, the weather honestly didn't look that terrible. It seemed like it was. I mean, it didn't look dry, but the weather didn't look that awful. It looked windy and all that for sure too. Actually, that's what got me is the fact that they were saying it was windy with gusts of like 15, 20 miles an hour, and they were still chucking the
Oh.
ball as much as they were, and it didn't sail on
Yeah.
McCarthy at all. Like it looked just
Right.
every throw was just on point. So yeah, I don't know. I wonder if it's anybody else, the weather would be something to consider, but Michigan's just on a mission this year, and so maybe they just transcend weather. I don't know. Up next, we have Iowa at Wisconsin for control of the Big Ten West. Not that that's something to boast about. I was certain that Wisconsin was going to win this one. I didn't think it would be by much, but I was so certain that I put money on it. And once again, like I bet the under on Michigan, and it didn't work, I am now 50 cents poorer. And Brian Ferentz has probably just won himself the head coaching position at Iowa. Dilly dilly. Iowa now has a really good chance of going 11-1, like a very good chance. Like it's unfair how good of a chance they have at it, and ending up in the Big Ten championship game to get blown out like the sacrificial lamb they are on the altar of Michigan's Big Ten three-peat. So here's a question for you. If Penn State wins the East, they would probably blow out Iowa again. So if Iowa's only 2 losses are to a playoff team, as Penn State would undoubtedly go to the CFP at that point, would Iowa also go to the CFP?
All right. Well, this is how I see it. So this is one of those situations where the NCAA will likely let us down, as they so often do. If that's the case, Iowa probably deserves a spot in the CFP, but they meaning the NCAA would find a way to keep them out, solely because Iowa doesn't draw the crowds that a Penn State or an Ohio State or a Michigan does, and we know the playoffs are more about money than they are about records. So I was also shocked Iowa beat Wisconsin. I really didn't think that was going to happen, but Wisconsin went for the air attack and Iowa cut their legs out from under them with the run game, which is now going to bring Luke Fickell into question because he came in saying he was going to change things and switch from the ground game to the air game, and that's not working. So not to be overly dramatic, but killed might be an overly dramatic thing to say, but given the score, I think Iowa killed Wisconsin's chances to make that air attack work, even for the rest of the season. But yeah, back to your question though, as far as will Iowa get into the playoffs? Honestly, I'm going to say no. I mean, I think they could win out the rest of the season, and the NCAA will still say, no, we think Ohio State looks better anyway.
I mean, I don't think Iowa should get in, period. I mean,
Okay.
So barring winning the Big Ten championship, if they win the Big Ten championship, then sure, let them in. Let them get destroyed on a national level. Like that's fine. But if they're 11-1 come season's end with a loss in the Big Ten championship, do you put in, let's say, Washington? Let's just say Washington runs the table in the Pac-12 and ends up back in the Pac-12 championship game, and they're playing Oregon again, and we know how difficult it is to beat a team twice in one season. So Oregon probably wins that game. Now Oregon, it would be 11-1. Washington would be, or I'm sorry, Oregon would be 12-1. Washington would be 11 or 11-1 or 12-1. Wow, also 12-1. Geez. So the point is though is that Penn State would most likely be a playoff team in this scenario. Would either Oregon and Washington get the bump over Iowa? Would the Pac-12 champion, I guess is a better way to say it, get a bump over Iowa? And I absolutely think they would. If you're talking about the 4 best teams in the country, Iowa is not one of those teams. Iowa is getting extremely lucky because of the schedule that they play, because out of the entire very sucky West Division, they just happen to suck the least. And also they happen to have a world-class defense. It's just the only reason I'm giving them as much crap as I am is because their offense is just historically awful. So at this point, I think a Pac-12 champion, even with a loss, gets into the CFP over a team that has lost to a playoff team.
Yeah, I think absolutely, because we already know that the NCAA has that whole eye test thing. And I mean, it doesn't matter. Iowa could be perfect. They could be 12-0. They could win the Big Ten. And I think there would still be debate in the NCAA as to whether or not Iowa even goes to the playoffs, because I don't trust them. I mean, they let in, I mean, by all rights, Ohio State should not have been in the playoffs last year because they didn't make it to the conference championship. But the NCAA said, no, we like the way they look, so we're going to put them in anyway. Now, granted, I think they did better against Georgia than Michigan did against TCU, but sure, any given Saturday, one team can beat another team, but did they deserve to be there in the first place? Did they earn the spot? And I think we've seen teams like an Iowa earn the spot and not get it because the NCAA says, no, we like the looks of this other team better. And we know that what that look means, they're the ones who draw the eyeballs to the TV sets and the devices and make us money off of advertising.
So I guess my rebuttal to that is, do you remember USC last year, how they played?
Not completely, no.
So it was similar to this year. They were lights out on offense, and then they had absolutely no defense. And that's pretty much why they lost the Pac-12 championship game to Utah. So Utah is, I can't remember if USC had a loss going into that game, but Utah is the reason USC didn't go to the playoffs. And it's because they dropped the Pac-12 championship game. And so the question is that Ohio State didn't go to the Big Ten championship game. USC went to their conference championship game and lost. Who gets in? And they ended up putting in Ohio State. That ended up being quite the game, so they kind of lucked out. But, I mean, in my opinion, USC was probably more-ish deserving just from the fact that they made their conference championship. Now, all of this is kind of a let's say an argument for the expanded playoff, although I don't know how I feel about that still. But that being said, moving forward, we're in a world where Iowa is not a very good team. They're going to lose to some pretty good teams once Oregon, Washington, USC, etc. get into the Big Ten. But they might still find themselves ranked 12th at some point, or whatever it's a 12-team playoff. And so they might be one of those bottom tier teams that somehow manages to get into the playoffs. And I don't like that. I don't think that they deserve it.
Yeah, and that's probably why they need to expand the playoffs, which I think next year they're going to, right?
That's been put on hold for right now.
Oh, really? Okay, I didn't know that.
Yep.
But they probably should, because the rankings are fairly subjective. I mean, this isn't like the NFL where you've only got 32 teams instead of 133 teams. It is 32 in the NFL, right?
Yeah.
I think that's right.
That's right. Yeah.
So all of those teams can play each other, and you can get to a more finite schedule. In college, you can't. So it ends up being, those top 25 teams. I think we've said that before. Like, really, the top 15 teams, any given weekend, those teams play each other, and you're going to have an upset or multiple upsets.
Yeah, it's true.
But that doesn't happen because they don't all play each other. So yeah, it's always tough with those rankings because there's just so many teams. Granted, I think the top 25 teams are definitely separated from the bottom 108.
Fair.
Uh, but still, ah, man, even so, I think those top 25 teams get fairly close in play. Maybe I mean, obviously Iowa has started out 25 and then dropped out and then went back up to 24 and then dropped out for a couple of weeks and now they're back up to 24 again. So there's some
Yeah.
variance there at the bottom, but still, I mean, take the top 10. I mean, those teams are almost equivalent teams. The top 10 teams are almost all the same.
Yeah, I think any top 10 team can compete with any other top 10 team right now. And honestly, I think
Yeah.
any ranked team could probably compete with any other ranked team right now, just because there happens to be that level of parity. And I think that's the right term.
Yeah.
It's wide open right now. Like everybody has a shot at a natty this year. Iowa,
Right.
and this is why I guess Iowa's ranked. I don't think Iowa should be ranked. Just I understand they're whatever and one, like 6-1, 5-1, but I don't even
Yep.
think that they should be ranked. So I guess my issue with it is that, like, yeah, you're right, it's subjective, but the only reason Iowa's ranked is because of their record, not actually because of the way that they're playing. So if you're taking the actual four best teams, if it were to come to this, Iowa's not getting into the playoff over a Pac-12 champion, over a one-loss Pac-12 champion. Honestly, I think that I would rather put a two-loss team in there before I put this Iowa team in there.
What's your prediction for the fight then?
Pain.
Next up, we're going to take a look at our picks from last week. So, Dad, take us through last week's picks.
All right. Well, last week in the whack week, it was wacky.
Whack.
Because we had another very close week. In fact, incredibly close week. I forgot to mention, I found a flaw in the point system, which I fixed this week. So if you look at the coin toss there, you have a 9 and I have a 0. Before before I was adding it up with both of us getting a bonus, it's just whoever won got a better bonus. But it's supposed to be that whoever doesn't get the bonus, which makes sense.
That's correct. Yes.
So this is where we're at this week. And I went back and I adjusted so the scores reflect. You're still winning. Don't worry. Our worst calls last week. Mine was the Iowa-Wisconsin game. Wisconsin just did a whole lot more than I expected him to. No, I'm sorry. Wisconsin did a whole lot less than I expected him to. I called it 24-21, and it ended up 15-6. Iowa's about right. But, I was off by 24 points on that one. Yours was the Illinois-Maryland game, which I just am shocked that Illinois actually beat Maryland at this point. I know I was calling Illinois to win the West, but Maryland's coming along like gangbusters, but then they lose to Illinois on the last play of the game, no less, with that field goal. But you were off by 13 and 11 off of both of them, so not giving much love to either side of the ball on that game.
Suck.
Our best call, you were almost dead on with the Indiana-Michigan game, so kudos to you. Let's round of applause there. One point off in total.
Oh,
I mean, that's pretty nice there.
Man.
My closest game was 7 points, and that was the Penn State UMass game. Penn State didn't score quite as much as I thought they would. UMass scored less than I thought they would, but that's the way it goes there. The biggest surprise, I guess I already covered that, but my biggest surprise was the Illinois-Maryland game. Your biggest surprise was the Iowa-Wisconsin game. I didn't ask you, though, before. Why did you pick Iowa-Wisconsin as your biggest surprise?
Because Wisconsin lost. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the story. That's it.
Kind of a surprise there, yeah.
Yep.
Those are the week 7 picks. We have, so Mac, you won the week again, and the accuracy comes in. I had better accuracy overall, but because you won the coin toss, you got the bonus there, which is why you won the week. We both called the same number of games correctly, so we both got 8s on that. But you got the bonus, so you got your score dropped down to 72, while mine stayed at 75, and that's why the coin toss is valuable.
Told you. It's not just luck.
Nope.
Okay, coming up next, we're going to talk about who still has a pathway to a bowl game.
Bowl games!
Bowl games!
A good reporter doesn't get great stories, Jimmy.
A good reporter
Makes them great.
Now, after week 7, we're going to take an updated look at which teams still have a pathway to a bowl game. All right, first up, we're going to look at the lowly Hoosiers of Indiana University. At 2-4, I think Indiana's basically done. Just quick look at their schedule. They do have Rutgers at home. You know, that could be a game. Rutgers had struggled with Michigan State. Michigan State's obviously not doing very well. Here's the thing, though. I think that even if Indiana were to beat Rutgers, I don't see 3 more wins. I mean, they've still got Penn State, Wisconsin, and then an away game at Illinois left. Otherwise, I think that it comes down to Michigan State or at Purdue, and I think Purdue is a loss for Indiana. So, in my humble opinion, Hoosiers, you had a good run. Well, no, you didn't. But it's been a good season. It's not been a good season. But Notre Dame's doing all right, so maybe you could just root for them for a bit.
Those in-state rivalries. I went back and checked your preview video for Indiana, and this from way back in May, and you had Indiana at best 5-7, at worst 3-9. Right now they're sitting at 2-4. So yeah, you might be right on the 3-9.
All right. How about that? They've got to get one more win out of that, can't they? Can't they? I would think.
Some of those games I think are winnable. I mean, Rutgers is winnable because Rutgers is not really all that consistent. I agree. I think Penn State, Wisconsin, Illinois being an away game is probably a loss. They've got a shot at Michigan State, and then Purdue is a toss-up. So they could potentially get 3. There's an outside chance.
I'm going to push back on Rutgers. Rutgers is a good football. Don't crap on my friends from Piscataway. All right. They're a good football team.
No, I agree. They're doing really well. I mean, they're sitting at 5-2 right now, which is a lot better than what we thought. So yeah, I agree.
Okay, good. You should. Michigan State. Michigan State. You guys gave up an 18-point lead to Rutgers, and then you gave Michigan a whole bunch of crap in 2021 for giving up a 16-point lead over an entire half of football. You guys blew an 18-point lead to Rutgers, so I never want to hear 2021 ever again. Okay. You had Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State left on the schedule. If you wanted a bowl game, you needed this win. There are only 3 possible wins left on the schedule, in my opinion, with Nebraska, Minnesota, and the aforementioned lowly Hoosiers. And I don't think Michigan State is going to a bowl game because they would have to pick up a win against the Penn State Nittany Lions, Michigan Wolverines, or Ohio State Buckeyes. And that's just simply not going to happen, guys. I'm really, really sorry. You're not going to a bowl game, Sparty. Sorry.
So back in April, you had MSU at worst 4-8 and at best 6-6.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that I don't think they're going to hit 4.
I don't think they're going to hit 4. They've got Indiana and at Minnesota.
Minnesota's they're winnable. They're winnable, but will they win them?
You can't say definitely at all.
No, you can't. I think their spirit has been crushed, and I don't know that they've got anything left.
I think that whatever they do have left, they're going to throw at Michigan for a quarter this week, and then they're probably just done.
Yep.
Yeah, you Spartan fans, you might be looking at a 2-10 season. Sorry. I mean, I understand you've got Indiana, but Indiana's got a good D-line. You never know.
Yep.
Wisconsin, you cheeseheads. UW is 4-2. They have now lost control of the West Division, but they only need 2 wins, and I can definitely see those on the schedule as soon as I pull up their schedule. You still have Northwestern and Indiana left to go. Yep, so I definitely see at least 2 wins, although you just lost your starting quarterback for a couple of weeks. He is having surgery on his hand, his throwing hand, not even his offhand. So that's going to be potentially problematic for you guys. So maybe there's an upset, but I still feel like you got a strong enough team to beat IU and Northwestern right now. You do also have Illinois, which fortunately for them and unfortunately for Dad, because he called Illinois to win the West and now they're just kind of tantalizing him with hope. Illinois beat Maryland somehow. So I still think Wisconsin could win that, but is that a trap game? Can you even really call it a trap game? I don't know. You also got Nebraska at home. The road game at Minnesota, I think, is a 50-50. With all of that, though, with IU and Northwestern, yeah, you guys got a solid chance to go bowling.
So then the Wisconsin preview was mine, and I had them at 9-3, but I also thought they'd beat Iowa. So
Oops.
they've got to win 5 more games.
They got to win 5 more games
to get up to my prediction. But I thought Luke Fickell would have them in shape a lot faster than this, but apparently not.
It's going to take more than a year. The rebuild was, unfortunately, for Wisconsin, always going to take more than a year. But everyone got excited thinking, oh, he's bringing in the air raid. It's Luke Fickell. Sorry. It's going to take more than a year.
As we talked about Wisconsin and Iowa last week, the air raid didn't work out so well.
No, it didn't.
No, I saw some either Wisconsin fans or a Buckeye fan. No, I'm not sure which one he was, but talking about, I had mentioned that Wisconsin switched to the air raid and that wasn't working out real well for him. And they actually replied, yeah, I don't think you can call that an air raid. What they were doing was not an air raid.
No, it wasn't.
It's what they said it was.
Mike Leach, God rest his soul, is turning in his grave.
Yeah.
Northwestern, the Cats, are 3-3. I don't see any definite wins on their schedule. I kind of suppose if they can catch Maryland napping like Illinois did, and then maybe make a few plays to beat Purdue, although Purdue is not very good. So they could be potentially going into the Illinois game at 5-6. And then that game is kind of a 50-50, although Illinois did just beat Maryland. Maybe Maryland was napping. I don't know. That being said, you need 3 wins. I don't see 3 definite wins for you, Wildcats. So right now I'm saying your chances are probably not very likely to go to, or not very high to go to a bowl game. But you got 3 50-50s. You got 3 toss-ups. You got Purdue, you got Illinois, and you have at Nebraska. At Nebraska's a loss. You got 2 50-50s and 1 likely loss. If you can steal a win against Nebraska, Maryland, or Iowa, then maybe.
So they had, so last year Northwestern was 1-11, right?
Yes.
This year in my review for Northwestern, I had them going 2-10, so twice as many wins. So this is pretty exciting that they're at 3 wins already.
Yeah.
They're already doing 3 times better this year than they did last year, which is good for Northwestern. It's nice to see them pick up some more wins, but it depends on. It depends on what Northwestern has left for this season, but I think they should be pretty happy with what they've done so far. I mean, they've already, like I said, they've already tripled their score. So
you got to think that they only need 3 wins to get a bowl game. So you got to think that they're going to be giving every team their all until they're mathematically out of it. I would think. Because
Yeah.
they got some fight. Like they definitely fought in all of their games. And they had a really good first half against Penn State. So they're going to fight because they probably really want to make a statement by going to a bowl game. And everything that they've been through, if they can make it to a bowl game, that's going to be huge for the culture moving forward.
Yeah, exactly.
Minnesota. You guys, you go first. Are 3-3. So for you guys, it's really the Michigan State, Illinois, and Purdue stretch that is going to determine if you're going bowling. If you drop any of those 3 games, you're staying home. I'm sorry, because other than that, you've got Ohio State and Wisconsin, although Wisconsin just lost their starting quarterback for a few weeks. So maybe that's a 50-50. I don't know. But that game is at home for Minnesota. Oh my gosh. All right. You guys might have a better chance than I thought yesterday. So congratulations. You're getting an updated view in real time. With Wisconsin, so to me, I guess that's a 50-50. I still lean L for Minnesota. So this still, to me, comes down to Michigan State, Illinois, Purdue. If you can win all 3 of those, then you're good, and you don't even need the Wisconsin game. If you lose one of those, then your best shot is beating Wisconsin. Otherwise, you're done. And that's it for you guys. That being said, I think you guys can make a bowl game. I like your chances against those 3 teams. Don't make me a liar or prove me wrong. Whatever. Don't let me down.
Yeah, I had them going 7-5. So they got to pick up 4 more games. And yeah, that's going to be a tough one, especially the way they've been playing. So
I will say, because their next game is at Iowa, and it would be the most Iowa thing to do to go to Wisconsin, go to Camp Randall, beat Wisconsin, take first place in the West Division, and then immediately lose to Minnesota.
Immediately.
That would be hilarious.
That's Iowa.
Nebraska. Speaking of states that grow a ton of corn, Nebraska, you are 3-3. You've got Northwestern at home, which should be a win. You've got Purdue at home. That should also be a win. And then you've also got Michigan State at home. And you've got Michigan State on the road. And I think that's also probably a win. So congratulations. I think you guys are going bowling in the first year of Matt Rule. Nice job. It really will depend, though, which version of Michigan State you're going to get. So you're going to have to be prepared, because that first half against Rutgers, they look good. That second half against Rutgers, they looked absolutely dreadful. So you will have, if you lose any of those games, like the Michigan State one, you're going to have to try and steal a win against Maryland. It's possible. I don't like it, but it's possible. They do struggle at times, so, it's possible. In any case, to me, it's probably the stretch of 3 games coming up that determines whether or not you guys make it. And I think that it's going to be huge for Matt Rule, and I think that means that you guys are probably going to win. Lots of emotion. If you have a chance to go bowling in the first year of the new head coach, that's huge. That's going to be huge moving forward. So congratulations. You have my stamp of approval so far.
I had Nebraska going 4-8. I went back to look at the try to find the video, and I forgot that's the one we took down because I screwed it up so badly. But yeah, I mean, I only need Nebraska to win one more game to make me happy. So
there you go. All right, we're going to quickly get through Purdue and Illinois and then move on to something way more interesting. Purdue needs 4 wins. I don't see them on the schedule right now. They've got Minnesota at home. That's an L. Maybe they win at Northwestern, but that's kind of a 50-50 to me. Indiana feels like a 50-50. They do have Michigan left, so maybe they'll win that. No, they won't. You're going to need to beat all 4 of Nebraska, Minnesota, Northwestern, and IU. Winning 2 of 4, maybe even 3 feels good to me, but all 4? I don't know if you can do it. So right now I'm going to say I don't think that you're going bowling. I'm really sorry.
Yeah, and I called Purdue at 5-7. So even if they only win 3 games and don't go bowling, I still get my pick.
And that's all that matters.
That's all that matters right now.
Illinois, Dad's favorite to win the West Division.
All right.
Should they be, or they should beat, they should beat Indiana, they should beat Northwestern, but then they have to steal one against any of Iowa, Minnesota, or Wisconsin. I don't like their chances in any of those games, but it's possible. I don't see it happening, but it is possible. Maybe Minnesota, because that one, with that one being at the Gophers, though, I'm really not sure. I lean L. And with that being said, I think that probably means that they're not going bowling. And that's just what I got. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, this is my most embarrassing pick because I called Illinois to win the West and to go 10-2. They are currently 3-4. So 10-2 ain't happening. They don't even have enough games to go 10-2.
Nope.
1, 2, 3. Yeah, 5 games left. Yeah.
Well, they're
Illinois let me down. I'm very disappointed in them.
They have 4 losses. Of course, they don't have enough games left to go 10-2. Math
is hard.
Next up, we're going to flip the coin, do our coin toss, and then get into some games for week 8. Let's do it.
Welcome! We are here to destroy you!
Now we're going to do our weekly coin tossing segment. So every week we toss the coin, whoever calls the correct thing on the coin gets to determine whether or not they want to pick home teams or away teams. So in that case, if more home teams win than away teams, then you get that bonus of the home teams winning or the away teams winning. And it just depends on if you want, which teams are playing at home. If they have a better chance of winning than the away teams, then you'd want to pick the home teams. It's strategy. This week, Dad, you are not only calling it, but you are also flipping it. Do that.
All right, I am going to call tails.
All right,
and ready?
Tails.
I am going to flip it now.
Okay. And it is heads.
Man, I really thought I was going to hit tails there for a second.
Yeah, I thought so too. But nope, luck is not on your side, nor should it be. Oh my gosh, it really is a toss-up, isn't it? Because there are so many good home teams. Well, so many teams at home that should win, and then so many. I'm going to take the away teams. And I'm saying that fully expecting, well, we'll get to that. I'm taking the away teams.
Brutal, but no one's died in years. Someone will vanish occasionally.
Now we're going to get into some week 8 games, starting off with the big one. We've got the number 7 Penn State Nittany Lions at number 3 Ohio State Buckeyes. Each of us has 1 minute on the clock to go into who we think is going to win and why. Dad, you want to go first? Or do you want?
I went first last week.
You went first last week. I'll go first this week.
All right, are you ready?
I am ready.
You are on the clock. Go.
I am going to say something mildly controversial. Neither of these teams have played anybody. Yep, I said it. Penn State's best win is against who? Iowa? But Mac, Iowa is ranked. Yeah, and they shouldn't be. It's not a testament to the strength of Iowa that they're ranked. It's just the fact that out of the entire division of sucky football teams, they happen to suck the least. And who has Ohio State beaten? Notre Dame? That's definitely a better win than anything Penn State has, but Ohio State ended up needing some last-minute heroics and some seriously bad math by the Notre Dame sideline to squeak out the win. Then Notre Dame followed that up by almost losing to Duke, actually losing to Louisville, and then beating, a top 10 USC team? You know what USC isn't going to be by season's end? A top 10 team. With that defense, they'll be lucky to be ranked. So yeah, Notre Dame is a better win than anything Penn State has, but when push comes to shove, is it really the measuring stick we thought it was, or is it maybe just a tad bit overrated? Whoever wins this game will have the best shot at unseating Michigan from the Big Ten throne, and with Ohio State being at home, I'm taking the Bucks in a low-scoring defensive battle, 21-17.
11 seconds over.
I don't care. It was great. All right. Are you ready?
I am ready.
You may begin now.
Oh, no, man. Okay. I lost my notes. Okay. So you've got 2 closely matched, undefeated teams with ramifications for the Big Ten East in this game. Both of these teams desperately want to walk away from this game with a win, and the one that doesn't is likely going to lose against Michigan, too. I don't want to say the season is over, but their championship hopes at the conference and national level will be over, unless it's Ohio State and the NCAA overlooks the 2 losses, as they often do. There is one drive worth of yardage between these teams. However, Penn State is scoring more points and allowing fewer points than Ohio State. Barely, I grant you. But Ohio State has the home field advantage, but Penn State knows what it's like to play in a loud, crowded stadium. This game is coming down to the last drive, the last play, but ultimately, I think Penn State is going to win in overtime. I've got Penn State 20-17, and I'm ready for the abuse.
Overtime. He's even calling overtime.
Yep.
Great. Next up, we have Michigan at Michigan State. This is the 116th meeting. It is not the 116th team they've played for the Paul Bunyan Trophy, but it is for the Paul Bunyan Trophy. So, you are on the clock. Probably shouldn't have put my timer away. Are you ready?
Oh, I'm going first. Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. You may begin now.
This game is going to be a bloodbath. It doesn't matter how bad the season is going. Michigan State will come to life in this game, and they will try to do as much damage to Michigan as they possibly can before time runs out Saturday night. As good as the Bennett-D'Antonio coaching duo could be, they have not been able to right the Michigan State ship, and it's been one devastating loss after another. But again, that will not stop them from punching Michigan in the face as often as they possibly can. However, Michigan is on a mission, and down and out Michigan State isn't going to slow them down. Michigan outclasses Michigan State in every metric, including style. And I believe Michigan will have this game wrapped up early in the second half, not the second quarter, but the second half. I'll take Michigan and the Paul Bunyan Trophy 42-14.
14?
Yep.
You really think Michigan State is going to put the most points on Michigan of any team so far this year?
Yes. I think they will, because that's what Michigan State does when they play Michigan.
Mm-hmm. All right. Okay.
All right. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
You are on the clock. Go.
There really isn't a lot to say about this one, so I'll say something about the rivalry. It's over for the foreseeable future. All through the D'Antonio era, Michigan State fans kept saying they wished Michigan would get better so the game would actually matter again. Well, now the roles are switched, and in a big way, but I absolutely love how bad Michigan State is right now. I wish it weren't because of the circumstances, obviously, but I don't like Michigan State, and so I am extremely happy that they are not doing well. And I'm happy that I'm expecting serious destruction at the hands of the reigning Big Ten champions this time around. So, yeah, I'm taking Michigan, obviously. It's going to be 45-6, and the only reason I'm saying only 45 is because I expect Michigan to be putting in the backups halfway through the third quarter.
Ooh, 9 seconds left over. Nice.
Sweet. That makes up for the other one.
Yep.
Coming up next, we have, actually right now, Minnesota at number 24, Iowa. Can Minnesota ruin Iowa's first place in the West Division thing right now? This is their 117th meeting. They are playing for the Floyd of Rosedale Trophy, whatever that is. Dad, you are on the clock. Are you ready?
It's not a pig. It's a prize hog.
It's a... Are you ready?
I'm ready.
And go.
Okay, Iowa is ranked. Again, when the season started, I hadn't figured either of these teams would be much better than average, but here we are. Minnesota is 3-3, which is below average for Minnesota, and Iowa is 6-1, which is above average for Iowa. Iowa just beat Wisconsin. Minnesota just got strangled to death by the Michigan boa constrictors. Nevertheless, the odds makers have Minnesota being competitive. We've got a 3.5 point spread, I believe, 3.5 or 4.5. Minnesota lost to Iowa last year by 3, and Iowa is on a 3-game winning streak this year. But if there's one thing we know about Iowa, it's that consistency is not part of the program. If Minnesota wants to salvage their season, they've got to beat Iowa this weekend. Minnesota is coming off a bye week, so they're rested and healthy and ready to go. Iowa is coming off a win against Wisconsin that may have clinched the West Division for the Hawkeyes. It's not an upset as much as it's the turmoil of the West Division. I'm taking Minnesota 17-14.
3 seconds over. What are you doing?
All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
You're on the clock. Go.
This could have been a trap game for Iowa, but Minnesota's just that bad. And honestly, I think Iowa will probably win comfortably. Now, comfortably means that it's probably going to be like a 10-point game-ish, maybe 12 because of the inevitable safety that's going to happen. But Iowa has their way of doing things or really not doing things. And if it seems like I'm stumbling through this, it's because that's just kind of what Iowa does in their games. They stumble, and that's all they're going to do. Iowa's probably going to end up getting a million field goals. They're probably going to get a safety. It's probably going to be an atrocious game that you're really not going to watch. Maybe they'll even get a rushing score. I don't know. They're certainly not completing any passes to wide receivers. And Eric All, their only tight end, is out for the rest of the season. So maybe no passes completed at all. I don't know. The Hawkeyes are going to find some motivation, I'm betting, probably because they're in first place in the West Division, but their division is stupid. Either way, give me Iowa 14-3.
3 seconds over. Not too bad.
What?
You think football is still fun?
Yes.
Sir.
Yes.
So now we've got our speed round. We're going to go through the last 3 games. There's only 3 games to go through, so we'll get through this pretty quick. I'll just go ahead and call out the game. You'll give me your score. I'll follow that up with mine, and we'll get out of here.
Got it.
Cool. All right. First up, we have Rutgers at Indiana. Go.
Yeah, I think all 3 of these games just don't matter, at least from any kind of a playoff perspective. So I've got Rutgers 24, Indiana 14.
All right. So I've got Indiana probably playing a little bit better on defense, just probably more because Rutgers' defense isn't going to be up to the task, I think, in my humble opinion. So I'm going to take Rutgers 24-21. A little bit more love for Indiana's offense there. Next up, Wisconsin versus Illinois.
I think Wisconsin's going to put Illinois down. I've got Wisconsin 21-17.
That's an awfully close score for putting another team down, but okay.
Wisconsin's going to win 21-17.
Got it. All right. Good call. Good call. I like it. Wisconsin's breaking in a new quarterback again this game, and Illinois, they've been a little bit difficult for the Badgers in recent years, so I think that trend continues. But I actually like Wisconsin a little bit more in this game because I think Illinois is just kind of that weak of a team right now. So I'm going to take the Badgers 17-10. Next up, we have Northwestern versus Nebraska.
Pulling for Northwestern, but I think Nebraska pulls this one out 21-14 Nebraska.
Yeah, I actually really like Nebraska in this game. I think Northwestern has a lot of heart, but I think Nebraska is just kind of onto something, and they've got an eye towards a bowl game, and I think that'll really propel them to a good future. So they're definitely going to want it. I've actually got Nebraska 31-10. A lot of love for Nebraska's offense there.
I guess. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend watching football. Have fun watching football. Remember, #make football fun again. If you like what you saw, don't forget to like and subscribe and leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. This is Big Ten Team Rivalry.